James's broader practice is primarily as an electroacoustic composer on the one hand, and as a free improviser often on the other. For free improvisation, I'm usually billed as piano and electronics, which is maybe ironic because I rarely perform improv with piano or electronics. I gravitate towards tools that I don't know. First of all, if I sit down at a piano, especially if I sit down at a piano keyboard, I actually find it very difficult to do free improvisation. I have so much embodied memory, my fingers go out in a certain way, and I fall into certain cliches almost immediately that personally I find it quite hard to shake. So if I don't know the tool, I don't have that problem. Also, if I don't know the tool, I get creatively inspired by exploring the possibilities of a tool, which helps me to sort of stay alert and engaged and maybe creatively fresher. I also gravitate towards tools that are not completely controllable. Sound rather than music. Trinkets. And every time, if I put the same performance gesture into it, it's not going to give me exactly the same output any two times, which helps things from getting stale. If I wave something in the air, they know what's making that sound. But there is an audience. I don't really feel like I'm playing to an audience. I feel like I'm performing with an audience is free to watch. But still, you can't completely ignore the fact that they need to get something out of it. You need to communicate with them to some extent. And also, the other thing, free improvisation leans so heavily on the ability to amaze or surprise. Oh my God, I can't believe that. What did that? It's taken a shape that seems in hindsight like, oh, that's the shape it had to take. And often that's a completely surprising shape to the performer. Performers agree, audience members agree, like when it's worked, it's worked. And when it didn't work, it didn't work. You know when it's working, and you know when it's not. So I think a lot of improvisation, frankly, a lot of successful improvisation from an audience perspective is about doing it with conviction. For a dancer, that's an obvious core part of the practice, how you carry yourself. For a musician, as long as you can produce the sound, the rest, in theory, is irrelevant, but not so with improvisation. The conviction that you feel inside, you have to somehow express bodily. Personally engaging with the performance, bodily engaging with the performance, defining space or claiming space. You have to listen and watch. Fully engaged orally and fully engaged visually in what's going on. I'm not sure that's really that possible to do that. Stay open and engaged with what the dancers are doing, just because you end up so locked into what you're hearing. Dancers are claiming space and musicians are not. Most musicians are stationary and dancers are not. How do you engage with that fact? Do you ignore that fact? Do you try to cross that boundary? Do you pretend it's not there? Or do the dancers need to include them in the space? Which musicians typically kind of hate, It's a very hard position for most musicians to suddenly be expected to engage spatially and physically with people is very painful. The Helsinki meeting point is it's a significant contribution to the community. The current form where we carve out a space to do it for several days, the opportunity to work under fairly free conditions with these kinds of people and these kinds of collaborators, some known, some unknown, it's pretty terrific. So I think I'm really looking forward to it.